Hello, my friends. It's Andrea Barkley here, fitness expert, and I have been wanting to do this for a long time, but I wanted to share with you an update on the first trimester of my pregnancy. Most of you know that I have a baby on the way, and I'm actually quite a bit far along, but it's been actually a pretty hectic few months, and I keep thinking, oh, I should start something on YouTube where I talk about my pregnancy and update everyone and share my experience. So here I am, and I wanted to recap my the first trimester of my pregnancy with you. And I had received a handful of questions, and I thought I would answer them and just kind of interject some of my own anecdotes for you as well. So anyway, let's get started. I have to say that, like, I have a little list next to me, so if my eyes glance over, that's why. But I had, by far, one of the biggest questions I've been asked is, was your pregnancy planned? We are older parents, and I think a lot of people were shocked that we finally pulled the trigger and made a baby. Yes, this baby was very, very planned. And in fact, and then another question people want to know is, how long did it take? We are both over 40, and it took us about 6 months to make this baby. And I actually think it took 6 months. I think it took as long as it did because, honestly, just full disclosure, I think because of stress. I personally had my own stresses in my life that needed some managing, personal relationships, and just my mind being scattered. And I also think too, just trying to get pregnant, even though we were not psychos about it, it can be a little bit stressful. So, but in particular, I had some personal relationships that were causing me a great deal of anxiety. And I just had to kind of take a little pause from those relationships for the time being and clear my head and focus on myself. And to be honest with you, the minute that happened, I got pregnant. So we did it the good old-fashioned natural way. There were no interventions or fertility or anything like that. I did follow some apps in the beginning, but honestly, I found those to be so stressful that I just quit using them. If you're just mindful of your body, in my case, I'm super tuned in, and so I had a good feeling for when was the right time, obviously with some science behind me. So I actually got pregnant in July, and I found out in August. And I would say that my first reaction was one of, okay, we'll see. You hear so many horror stories, and 1 in 4 women miscarry, and super aware that we're not in the ideal age range for having babies. And so I just was like, okay, well, we'll sit and see and wait and see how it goes. And, my doctor told us that really they say don't get too excited until you're out of your first trimester. But she said to us, really, it's the first 10 weeks. Like if anything is to go wrong, it's within the first 10 weeks usually. And anything outside of that 10 weeks is often a genetic issue with the parent. So it would be with me or my husband, Darren. So we just kind of sat back and waited and to see what was going to happen. In the meantime, we had a trip planned. We got married in May, got pregnant in July, and our honeymoon was planned for September. So we were going to France. So of course, like the wine capital of the world. And Darren was like, are we really going to like the greatest place on earth for wine and you're not going to have any wine? And I was like, well, it's better than being at home and not having any wine. May as well go to France and not have any wine. So we continued on with our I think we were gone for 2 weeks in September. And honestly, that trip was just the most awesome distraction to think about something else and be excited about something else and feel something else. And not get so wrapped up in the day-to-day of, well, now the baby is the size of a lima bean, and the baby is this, and this is what's growing. And those are all like really neat and exciting and amazing things. But I think they can kind of, it's easy to get carried away with all of that. And so traveling abroad helped me stay distracted. A lot of ladies out there are going to absolutely hate my guts, but I have to tell you, my first trimester, not bad. It was not bad at all. I didn't have any fatigue. I didn't have any nausea. And in fact, I just felt fantastic and pretty full of energy pretty much the entire time. I have notes here on like food. I've been asked, what kind of cravings did you have? And I will say that I craved pineapple, like fresh, ice cold pineapple in absolutely epic proportions. So I could eat a whole fresh pineapple, like, and not even blink about it. I just loved it. And I will say it was really interesting to see and feel, even though I didn't really feel nauseous, if there were foods I weren't drawn to, and very weirdly, the girl who eats a ton of vegetables and a ton of protein, I was not into a ton of vegetables and a ton of protein. It didn't make me throw up or anything like that, but I just looked at it and I was like, no, I don't want that. And I really craved a lot more carbs than I have ever eaten in my entire life. One night I was laughing because we'll make homemade healthy pizzas at home. I usually use like gluten-free Food for Life brown rice tortilla, and then I top it with like pizza sauce and raw cheese, and I overload with vegetables, like mounds and mounds of vegetables. And I just didn't want it. Like no part of me wanted it. And so, and I didn't want the meat, I didn't want anything. But on this night, I had found cauliflower pizza crusts from Whole Foods, and I was laughing because I was comparing my pizza to Darren's pizza, and usually my pizza is towering with veggies and protein, and Darren's is pretty plain Jane. And on this night, Darren's was towering with veggies and protein, and mine looked like a 2-year-old's pizza. It was like sauce and cheese, and that was all I wanted. And you know, it was tough for me as a fitness professional to be like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I don't want to get fat. Like, if this is all I want to eat, this isn't going to be pretty. And I just had heard from people that I respect and admire to like, whatever you do, don't eat for 2. You know, in the first and second trimester, you really only, on the first trimester, you don't need any extra calories. It's not until the second trimester that you need 300, and the third you need roughly 500. But if you think about that, that's basically like an apple and peanut butter. It's nothing. So I just had to trust my body to know what it wanted. And I just went with it. And then I was like, well, if I'm craving carbs, then I'm at least going to keep it gluten-free. I'm going to keep it organic. I'm going to try and have my food be sprouted. Was I perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in fact, on our way to France, I read this spectacular book called French Women Don't Get Fat. And I can't remember the name of the author right now, but if you're familiar with the champagne brand, it's a luxury champagne brand called Veuve Clicquot. The CEO is an older French woman. I think she's in her 70s or 80s now. And she had gone to college for a semester in America, and she gained like 20 or 30 pounds. And she's like, I've been living this French lifestyle for so long. And she goes to lunch, and she has bread, and she has basically whatever she wants, including dessert and champagne with every lunch. And she's like super slim and trim. And so the book was her secrets. And I read it on the plane ride over we flew into Nice. And it was such an awesome book for me to read, because you do feel in the beginning like you've given up so much, coffee and wine, and a lot of women go really, like, gosh, no turkey or no sushi or no nothing. And so it can feel very limiting. And I liked her style. I liked what she had to say. And she basically was like, it's things we know. It's things in moderation. And she was saying, like, look, if you're going to have the dessert, or if you're going to have a croissant, you have one. And then maybe you pass on the bread basket, or maybe you pass on something else, and you just enjoy bites, right? You enjoy tastes of things, and you don't limit yourself, because it's when you limit yourself that it really feels restrictive, and you're more likely to careen the other way. And I really loved her so much because she talked so much about food quality, the quality of the clean water that you drink, and obviously exercise and moving and breaking a sweat every day. And those are all things I'm totally on board with. So I thought, I really like this inclusion of chocolate croissants and lemon tarts, and I'm going to give this a try when I'm in France. And so I don't normally ever eat that stuff, but I definitely ate something very fun every single day of my honeymoon. And it was a real treat. And it showed me and taught me that sometimes I might take things a little bit too far or be a little bit too strict. And my body was pretty darn happy with me. It wasn't really a problem at all. I did have one moment in France. I think I was maybe about 10 weeks pregnant, where Darren and I went on a bike ride, and it was a lot longer than we expected. I was not prepared for it. We had no food or water. It was freezing. It was raining. We'd been riding for hours, and I thought we were close to the end, and then we realized that we were actually only halfway there. And if we kept going, it would have been longer, and we were better off turning around and going back. And I will not lie, I cried. And I flipped out, and I was exhausted, and I could not even imagine. And I was like, oh, it was awful. And I think a lot of that was pregnancy related. Darren has a hilarious video of me like completely melting down, but that is not shareable for the internet. So yeah, so I'm just looking back at my notes. I cooked pineapple like crazy. I didn't want too many vegetables. I would have some, but not a lot. And I didn't want a lot of protein. And again, I just went with it. So what I did do for healthy carbs, healthier choices, I would say, is I would do peanut butter and jelly, all organic, of course, no added sugar, on like a rice cake. I did a lot of, I call it protein cereal. There's this awesome cereal by a brand called Love Grown, and it's made from beans. And so I would have a bowl of that cereal, and I would stir in a scoop of my favorite protein powder and have some coconut milk with it. And that was super satisfying. And I'm actually still doing that. And a lot of fruit. I just would let myself go to town on fruit, and I just tried not to worry about it. And balance it out with a little bit of, you know, healthy fat, avocados and eggs and cheese and that kind of thing. And a side note, when I eat cheese, I eat like organic raw cheese when possible. And then I did cut out coffee for basically the first half of my pregnancy. I would have decaf just because I like the routine of coffee. I have a little bit right here. I did do decaf. But if you do enjoy decaf coffee, or if you want decaf coffee, look for a process called a Swiss water process. The way that they take caffeine out of the bean is actually really terrible for you, but Swiss water process is a healthy way to get the caffeine out of the coffee bean. So, and I found this awesome brand called, it sounds so silly, but I found this awesome brand of coffee called Mommy Coffee, and it's MOMEE, and all of their decaf is Swiss water process. And you can buy quarter calf, you can buy decaf, quarter calf, half calf. I think they even do 3/4 calf and then full calf. And then the caffeinated part of the coffee is also organic. And I would, on days that I was feeling a little bit lower energy, I would do, in my Keurig K-Cup, I would do like half decaf or half decaf and half quarter calf. So I was getting like barely any caffeine. They do say in pregnancy that it's okay to have up to 2 cups of coffee a day. It didn't feel right to me. So I just didn't do it. The other thing I found was a really cool product called chicory coffee. And if you Google chicory coffee, it's also an organic product, and it has like a coffee vibe to it, but it definitely has more like chocolatey tones and chocolatey notes. And I enjoyed that for a bit, and that was cool. So also I didn't go too psycho about cutting things out. I know they say like no lunch meats, no, no soft cheeses, no, be careful with fish and sushi. Also, while I was in France, I read this awesome book called Bringing Up Baby. And, but in French, of course, it's Bibi, Bringing Up Bibi. And a really, really, really a terrific book. And it kind of compares pregnancy and parenting in not just France, but in other countries versus America. The author, I think, is from New York. And, French women have a totally different approach to pregnancy. They're not psychos. They're not constantly reading books and limiting things, and they're enjoying an espresso and a glass of wine here and there. Basically it was like, know the source of your food, and then don't get so stressed about it. And so that's kind of been my take too, is I'm knowing the source of my food and not getting too stressed out about it. I think there are a lot of worse things I can do than having a little bit of organic soft cheese on my eggs than having McDonald's. That's my own opinion, and I feel very, very comfortable and confident with that choice. I also feel comfortable and confident having some fish. I don't think there is a doctor in Japan who would tell a pregnant woman to limit her fish consumption. So I do appreciate concerns about mercury and those kinds of things, but I don't think a bite of really beautiful quality sushi is a terribly big deal. So anyway, I didn't get too psycho about cutting anything out, and I just kind of went with it, and really it felt great. Workouts was a big question. I will say that your heart rate does get a little bit higher in the beginning, so you do very little and your heart rate is through the roof. And so I did slow down a bit, and not so much because of the heart rate thing, just because I was worried. I just wanted to be a little bit more cautious, but I'm also super aware that that when a mom exercises, her babies are healthier and happier and smarter. So I definitely was conscientious of exercising, maybe even more, but not with the same intensity as before. So like, no matter what, a 30-minute walk on the treadmill or on the step mill every day. And then where I would normally pair my weight training with like multiple muscle groups, and I would use it to get my heart rate higher, I would maybe more slow it down and do what I would call like a bro style workout, which is more of a traditional bodybuilding split, where like Monday is chest and back day, Wednesday is leg day, Friday is arm day, and then I always teach a weekend class that's a little bit more intense, and I have done that all along, and I haven't stopped. So that worked really great for me because it allowed me to continue to maintain my muscle. Obviously, you're like not trying to crush any new goals at this stage of my life. But I definitely don't want to lose what I've got. And I have to say that there's been like a nagging fear in the back of my mind of like, dear God, please don't get fat. Like, don't get fat. I had no idea what to expect. I've heard all of these stories from women who gained 50, 60 or pounds or more. And in fact, at my first doctor's appointment, my doctor suggested that I could gain up to 35 pounds. And I was like, why? You know, I know there's a lot of fluid and there's a lot more blood circulation. But I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And in fact, in that same book I was reading about French parenting, they talked about the differences in American weight gain recommendations versus not just French weight gain recommendations, but weight gain recommendations in pregnancy around the world. And it turns out that, you know, only in America are we recommending women of a healthy weight gain 25 to 35 pounds, or a very lean woman gaining even more than that, if that's not natural for her body type. Around the world, the recommended weight gain is like 15 to 23 to 25 pounds. So that was very eye-opening for me. And so I just, you know, it's tough when your body, when your life is staying in shape and inspiring others to stay in shape. Scary to think about what that's going to do to your body. And so I just told myself over and over, don't get fat. You don't want to get fat. And if I was ever tempted to overeat or have like a second dessert, I was like, you don't want to get fat, Andrea. Don't want to get fat. You don't need to eat for two. And I knew I wasn't eating for two. I knew it was just because I wanted another chocolate croissant. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I did it, but for the most part, I had that in the back of my mind, which leads me to the next question I get asked a lot is, have you gained any weight, or how much weight have you gained? And I did not gain any weight in my first trimester. In fact, I may have lost a couple pounds. I always lose weight when I travel. It's a weird thing. So I think that's it. Oh, symptoms. What other pregnancy symptoms did I have? So other than a positive pregnancy test, and again, I felt so good. I was scared about it. I kept taking pregnancy tests because if you don't know this, when you take a pregnancy test, a urine test, in the beginning, that little line that shows up, that little positive line, is very faint because you don't have enough of that pregnancy hormone yet in your system to make it be a very dark line. So you actually have to take the test first thing in the morning when you haven't had any water and that hormone is extra concentrated into your system. But as your pregnancy develops, you can pee on that thing any time of the day and it's going to be dark. So I kept retaking that test because I wanted to see the line get darker. And I was like, is this real? And my boobs were sore and big. Like you can't even believe they're a part of your body. Not horrific, but they were sore. So that was it. So yeah, I think that was it. So overall, first trimester, pretty darn easy. Like tip, no fatigue, tons of energy. Was a little bit cautious about working out, but I still did it. And travel was just an absolute godsend to get my mind off of things, and obsessing over these apps, pregnancy apps, fertility apps, all this crap. I just think it's so stressful. But it's fun to find one you like and stay on top of it because it is amazing. It is amazing to know what's happening and that it's real. And it's neat it's so cool how there's like an online community now of anything that you want, anything that you need. Oh, and showing. Did I start showing? Yeah, I'm very prone to being bloated. So it turns anyway. Like if you followed me for any length of time, you know that wheat and sugar and all that crap makes me so bloated, and pregnancy was no different. I felt like at 10 weeks pregnant, like I looked much farther along. I couldn't even imagine getting any bigger. I felt so big, but I also know that it was mostly the pregnancy hormones. It's actually a very common symptom in your first trimester is extreme bloat, and God knows I had it. So yeah, for sure. And I think I was really showing around 12 weeks. But I think that was just me. I felt that way. And then when I finally outed the news, the first week of my second trimester, people were like, you know, like, you're not really showing. but I felt like I was. So I think that's it. Did I answer all your questions? I think I did. I had cravings. Was it plans, symptoms, workouts, all that stuff. If I missed anything, just send me a message or leave a comment and let me know. And I will film a second trimester update as well, and also a third trimester when I'm ready to do it. So thanks for watching. It's super fun to share in this with you, and excited to be on this ride. So it's awesome. Anyway, thank you. Any questions at all or comments? Again, leave a message or leave a comment, DM, whatever. Okay, talk soon, guys. Bye.